Mikey, he's Murf. We talking Raiders and football dirt. Because we are a new Raiders talk show. This is episode 19. Let's go. It's Monday with Mikey and Murf. So here we are post-Thanksgiving. Had a lot of turkey and stuffing. Feeling kind of tired, feeling kind of weak. But we're going to have a good show and a good week. Good times about to begin. Hopefully the draft will begin soon, because that's what we're all waiting for. Let's be honest with ya. Yo, it's Monday with Mikey, he's Murf. We talking Raiders and football dirt. Because we are a new Raiders talk show. We're having good times. Let's go. It's Monday. It's Mikey, he's Murf. Woo! What's up, Murf? How you doing this post-Thanksgiving? I'm all tryptophaned out.
I'm with you, Mikey. I'm fat and happy, and the Raiders haven't won another football game. But other than that, everything is lovely, sir. How about you?
Yeah, I didn't expect another victory Monday this week, or maybe next week versus the Chiefs, or maybe this entire season. But we got the Bengals on the schedule.
Yeah.
So Andy Dalton's gone. We might discuss that in today's show, but that's interesting.
Andy Dalton is gone. I did not hear that. Did he get hurt?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Andy Dalton is gone for the season. They got Jeff Driscoll, and maybe that's a winnable game, and we'll find out if the Raiders are officially tanking, because we could probably win that game.
We're not tanking. You're out of control.
So give a shout out. Let everybody know about your amazing podcast network, Raiders Fan Radio.
Thank you very much, Mikey. Yes, my podcast network is called Murf's Fan Cave, and that contains 3 shows: Raiders Fan Radio, this show, Mondays with Mikey and Murf, and then the Fan Club Blitz, who held it down this week as they went and traveled down to Baltimore and did some live recording down there for the Baltimore game out there in the tailgate with the black hole. But yes, but the Murf's Fan Cave Network, you can find us all over the place, any podcast service. And please do me a favor, subscribe to us. We're on the YouTubes. I think our link is down below. It's Murf's Fan Cave, easy peasy, easy to remember, MURFS Fan Cave, and subscribe to us there. We've Mikey's got me hooked on this YouTube thing. We've been an audio only podcast forever, but now we're doing live streams every week when we record episodes of Raiders Fan Radio. And so please hit us up and give us a subscribe there if you would be so kind, and support what we're doing out here for Raider Nation.
Definitely. It's a hard time. The Raiders ain't winning, so it's a hard time to get subscribers. Normally around the holidays, like Raider fans would be all excited. Hopefully we're still in the playoff hunt. They'd come, they'd find our channels, they'd enjoy the content, but like it's a desert wasteland. So I turned on that song the other night that goes, out here in the fields, I work for my meals. It's a Raider wasteland.
It's only Raider wasteland.
That's how it feels right now. But hey, I actually got thanks to Murf, and we're using a thing called Zoom, I'm able to look at the chat while we're online. Doesn't mean we'll go to it during the show, but it's available, and you guys can always donate. You don't need to, but that's what we're talking about. But let's do it. Murf, what shirt is that? You're a Wild Stallion.
Yeah, man, I'm rolling with my Bill and Ted Wild Stallions, the band that's going to save the world, Mikey. And rumor has it that Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves are committed to writing a new script, and we're going to get a Bill and Ted Part 3, which is going to be amazing.
I love it. I love it. I cannot wait. Believe me, I'm a big Bill and Ted fan.
Best. Hey, so the first movie obviously is a classic. The second one is very, very good, but highly underrated, don't you think? Like, it holds up. If you go back and watch it, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I like the robots, and I like that little creature that became a big creature. There was like 2 of them. And what is that? What do they call them? Station. Yeah,
pretty funny. But I love George Carlin too. I'm a huge George Carlin fan, and he absolutely just is the glue for both of those movies. As wonderful as those characters are in both of them, George Carlin is just amazing. I love George.
I'm sorry, but George Carlin, he had one comedy act that me and my dad loved forever, and I'm going to do a little bit of it just because I'm an entertainer.
Do it.
But he goes, "There's a man in the sky that watches over us always when we go to the store. When we do this, he's watching over us 24 hours a day, 7. There's a man in the sky. His name is God." and he sees all and he knows all. And he wrote the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that, thou shalt not kill, or I will banish you and put you in hell. But I love you. I'll kill you, put you in hell, but I love you. I love George Carlin.
My favorite, one of my favorites, is the one that he does on Guys Named Todd. And no offense to anybody out there named Todd, but he's like, F Todd and Todd's friend Kyle and Todd's friend Blake. And he goes through like all these different guys, and he goes, and then he gets to the last one and he goes, and Tucker, F Tucker, Tucker sucks. And every time I hear that, and we play the Baltimore Ravens, it always reminds me of that, because Tucker is their field goal kicker. And so every time he kicks an extra point or a field goal, in my head, all I can hear is George Carlin going, F Tucker, Tucker sucks.
That's awesome. I love it. George Carlin was a little bit of a conspiracy or government political aficionado, and I really love that.
Yeah, man. He was a genius, man. He was an absolute genius. He's on the short. I know this isn't, all-time comedians with Mikey and Murf here, but man, when you think of George Carlin, like there's only a handful of guys, right? Like there's him and there's Pryor, to me, are like 1 and 2, and then everybody else kind of falls underneath, whether it's Chappelle or Eddie Murphy or whoever else that you like. But those two guys, man, Carlin and Richard Pryor, man, it's the best. They are the absolute best.
I really enjoyed Eddie Murphy and some of his specials. I got McDonald's, and you can't have none.
He was great, but he got away from it. Even when Pryor became a movie star, he still did those amazing specials, Live on the Sunset Strip and all those. Where Eddie Murphy, man, he just went like 1, 2, and then that was it. But those two that he did, you're right, absolutely genius. Raw and Delirious are both phenomenal.
Well, speaking of being raw, we're about to get raw. Because it's time for the headlines, deadlines, breadlines, blow my mind. Murf, Rent is coming on tour in February, and I'm going to go watch it.
Heck yeah, you are.
I actually want to see Dear Evan Hansen. I know, talk to Mosh about that, but that Broadway musical looks great. Dear Evan Hansen.
Dear Evan Hansen, okay.
All right, here we go. And just a reminder, these are headlines. Sometimes the topics are a little bit debatable. That's why we do it. I don't know. That made no sense to me. Here's the game topic. We'll get into the game review in a minute. But basically, the Ravens ran away with a win over the Raiders in the second half. But on good news, maybe a little too late, Tom Flores and Richard Seymour have been named semifinalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame's 2019 class. This is Tom Flores. He's never made it this far. He's in the top 25, and he's very surprised. It might be a little too late, but you can never say that when it comes to the Hall of Fame, a la Terrell Owens. You think Tom Flores is going to hold out like Terrell Owens if he gets accepted?
No, I think he'll show up, Mikey.
So do I. But it's funny how they always write Richard Seymour, like other like kind of no-name Raiders that played for 2 years. I don't know. Yeah. Interesting. So give me your thoughts on Tom Flores, baby, going into the Hall of Fame. Hopefully, will he? Won't he? What's going on?
Yeah, so, as much as I get accused of being a blind loyalist and Pollyanna Raiders fan, this is one where I am not. And we discussed this a little bit on Raiders Fan Radio. And we have a pretty vocal, listener base like we do here. And they let me know that they didn't agree with me, that I don't think Tom Flores is Hall of Fame worthy. And, as much as I love the Raiders, and I will always root for a Raider to be in the Hall of Fame just because I'm a Raider fan and I want to see more of us represented there, I don't think Flores, when you look at his resume, is qualified to be a Hall of Fame coach. And when you look at what he did and when he did it, that was in the middle of Al's heyday. That was Al being Al, and Al constructed those teams. Al was the orchestrator of most of it. And of course, Flores was calling plays, or at least representing the team on the field. And there's a lot of merit to that. But when you separated Tom Flores from Al Davis and you look at what happened when he went to Seattle, I don't even think he had a winning record when he was responsible for the Seattle Seahawks. And Raiders fans, we just want to forget about that part of his career, and we don't want to account for that because he was wearing, the blue and whatever goofy colored jerseys they had over there. But, I mean, he was awful as the Seattle Seahawks head coach. And so when you take Tom Flores out of the ranks of Al, then no. Now, if we're talking the entirety of his career and, the barriers that were broken, being Latino and all those wonderful things are great. And if that's to consider him for the Hall of Fame, then fine. But, is that worthy criteria, though, to put somebody in the Hall of Fame? I don't know if it is or not, and that's finally debatable. But if you want to go just on track record, just on wins and losses, I don't think Tom Flores is Hall of Fame worthy. I think Jim Plunkett, if we're going to look, if someone's being omitted, it's Jim Plunkett. Let's put the 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, the freaking Super Bowl 15 MVP. Let's put that guy in the Hall of Fame. That's where to me, the oversight is before we get to Coach Flores.
Well, again, this is a legacy probably vote. I think they have a new thing every year where they get like a legacy or a leader or something like that, of an older age to come in, hopefully before they pass away. So I think this is a legacy hire as well. Maybe not a statistical hire, like you said, but I'm not going to debate that because first off, every Raider should be in the Hall of Fame with our fandom. So let's just leave it at that. But definitely for the barriers he broke in terms of the Latin community and all that, him and Plunkett. I definitely would love to see them go in as a pair. That would have been awesome if it was this year. I definitely think for the NFL moving forward in terms of its cultural diversity, that they need this, they want this, and they're going to get this. I truly think he will go in this year once everything is all said and done because his health wasn't doing so good. He got injured last year in an accident. And I think the NFL wants to do something good for the Raiders before they go to Vegas as well. So a little summary on that, or my opinion on that subject.
Yeah, that's fair. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. When you look at the entirety of his playing career and his coaching career, and you want to consider those things, then that's fine. I'm trying to find his I'm going to find his coaching stats here, and I'm going to read those off to you before we move on from it. Go ahead and jump in there with something else if you got to close it out, and then I'll.
I'm just proud. I think he'll make it this year. So I think it's deservingly so for cultural diversity and for the Raiders moving forward.
Okay, so for the last 6 years of his career, so he coached a total of 12 years. All right, and so for the last 6 of them, he didn't have a winning record. Okay, so now is that Hall of Fame worthy? I don't know. Now, and one of those two of those years were with the Raiders. He had an 8-8 season in '86. Then they were 5-10 in '87. Then he went to coach the Seahawks for 3 years. They were 2-14, 6-10, and 6-10. That's what's going to keep him out of the Hall of Fame right there. Now, is that because again, I want him to be there. So don't, Raider Nation, don't take it the wrong way. And some will, and that's fine because it's what we do. We debate football. But when you look at those numbers, you can't put somebody in the Hall of Fame that lost the last 6 years of their career and they didn't even sniff 500 in a lot of those years. So I just don't think that he's the guy. And everything that he did, again, all the goodness of it that happened while he was partially responsible, it was mainly Al Davis, right? Al Davis was the orchestrator of all that.
Well, there it is. there's the semifinalist. And if you want to compare, looking at it quickly, Jimmy Johnson is possibly a legacy coaching hire. Don Coryell, legacy coaching hire. Tom Flores. There's some good competition now that you bring it up. There's some good competition.
Yeah, and Jimmy Johnson won a couple Super Bowls. Of course, now he's another one. Didn't have a ton of success when he moved on to go coach the Dolphins, right? So he had his time over there with Marino, and did he come right after Shula? I can't remember if he was the one that came right in after Shula, but even by all accounts, they had the 1 year where we were 1-15 or whatever before they flipped it around, and then they were good for every year that he was there. So he never had those he never had those string together those losing seasons. And yeah, there's some monster names on here.
Pick five who get in from that list if you can read it.
I'm going to exclude Atwater and Champ Bailey just because they're freaking Broncos. Let me see. Just go. Well, Tony Gonzalez, I think you got to put in there. He's an absolute. Despite the fact that he played for the Chiefs, he's a slam dunk. I think Edgerrin James is that's a good name to see on there out of University of Miami. Jimmy Johnson you could put on there. I'm not going to put John Lynch on principle. Kevin Mawai, that's a good one. Kevin Mawai, longtime center for the Jets and the Titans. Centers get overlooked a lot, like our Rodney Hudson gets overlooked a lot, right? So I think that's a solid one. I'm going to skip Mecklenburg because he's a Bronco. What's up with the freaking Broncos on here? And then Ed Reed. Ed Reed, at one point, when you looked at Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu, I mean, those were the two of the most dominant players on defense in the league. And, Ed Reed, another University of Miami guy, what a stud he was, right?
All right. Just for fun, I will pick Tom Flores because I think he'll get in. I think it's going to happen. I hope so. Tom Flores, I'm going to say Tony Gonzalez. I know he's the chief. I think they love him, the NFL Network and all that. I think they love him too much. Edgerrin James, I would love to see. That would be 3. John Lynch, he's with the 49ers. The NFL loves him. They gave him the coin toss. They're going to do that. It's funny how I said the NFL loves him. Ed Reed is 5, and then let me give a 6. I'm going to give it to Hines Ward. Why not?
I think the criteria to me, and everybody debates Hall of Fame and MVP and blah, blah, blah. I think the best way to evaluate to me is when you look at is somebody Hall of Fame worthy. Were they the best at their position during the time that they played? And so was Edgerrin James the best running back in football during the time that he played? Yeah, answer that question. I mean, again, it's debatable, but you could say yes. He was dominant.
Emmitt Smith? Didn't they have Emmitt Smith around that time too?
No, that was on the tail end of Emmitt, if at all. I mean, Edgerrin James was more you think about the Colts years, right? He was more the Tony Dungy, Peyton Manning Colts. That's where Edgerrin James was, right? Before Joseph Adai, that was the guy that was running back. But was Jimmy Johnson the best coach in football during his time, during his heyday? Yes, absolutely, he was. So I think that it was Ed Reed, the best safety. Again, I mentioned Polamalu was the only other peer that he had, and their games were a little different. But yes, absolutely, that he was the best at the position. So then I ask you this back, bring a full circle here. Was Tom Flores the best coach at the time and when he coached? No. Yeah, I don't think he was. I don't think Don Coryell was either. I wouldn't put him in there. Of course, and I certainly, just on the fact he's a Charger alone, I wouldn't put him in. But
Murf, you're gonna get hatred.
I'm telling you, but bring it. I'm telling you, I've been down this road before, so I kind of know what the arguments are gonna. But I'm always open to different. I'm not here to be right. I'm here to just have an opinion, and I'd love to hear yours. I can't read the chat, but if the chat's got a response to it, put it in there because I always catch up after the show. So please put it in there. I'm curious to know your opinion. But when I think of it, when you look at it, that criteria was that guy the best at the time that he played and or coached? That determines your answer right there, and I'll let you decide for yourself.
All I can do is respect you for telling your truth and speaking your mind, and you have a lot of valid points. But like I said, I want him. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not even going to look into it. I'm not on the damn panel where I have to pick. I'm just going to say he's a Raider. He's Latin. A lot of the Raider fan base are Latin. Latin people are getting kicked down right now. They deserve Tom Flores. Let's just get it done with. Okay, Gruden versus CARR, the yelling match that went on TV that created a good story and everything. Some wanted to say it was bad for the team. Some said it was good for the team. But I love this. Chris Sims, I believe that's his full name. Chris Sims played for John Gruden, and he works on a couple of networks and stuff. And then he spoke about how the Gruden and CARR yelling match is 100% good for their relationship moving forward. And basically, that is who John Gruden is. So hopefully Derek Carr can learn and accept that, but that's who Gruden is. But I loved listening to this interview, a former quarterback under John Gruden talking about Gruden. Let's listen to this. It's fantastic. Listen.
So you're telling me, if I'm watching the Raiders, the worst thing I could see is Carr come off the field and Gruden says something and Carr keeps walking. The best thing that I can see, even though it looks the most confrontational, is Derek Carr stopping and arguing with John Gruden. Well, that's actually the healthiest relationship that Gruden can have with a quarterback.
I'm not saying that it has to happen on every series. I mean, if that's happening every series, they walk off the field, then there's a problem if they're doing. But for 3 to 4 spats like that a game, yes, that's
So in your mind, it's actually better that it's happening.
It is. It definitely is. Yes.
That's how Gruden communicates?
It is a little bit how he communicates, especially on Sundays. He's not logical on Sundays always. He's not capable of having logical discussions. He's caught up in the moment, and he wants to yell at you just because he wants to yell because he didn't get the first down, and he's just going to yell at you because he knows I have the best relationship with this guy, and I can yell at him, and hopefully everybody else will hear me too.
He yells at you.
Yeah.
Was there anybody that would come up to you and be like, man, you know how he is?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it could have been.
Did he have certain guys?
Well, I mean, it could have been Joey Galloway who came up to me and be like, hey, man, shake that off, man. Don't worry. I mean, we're good. We're good. And I'd be like, yeah, I know, and whatever. Or it could be even his assistant at the time, Paul Kelly.
Okay.
Paul Kelly.
Never heard of this guy.
Yeah, Paul Kelly. PK is with the Washington Redskins under Jay now, but he would be another guy that would always come up to me and be like, hey, if he's yelling at you, it means he likes you a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. So that's part of it. Or
so we're looking at it and going,
Yeah.
man, the Raiders are a mess, but really you're going,
Yeah.
this is actually good.
Yeah, this is not a bad thing at all. I don't look at it. This is the type of coaching staff and relationship he has with a quarterback.
I loved it. I loved hearing Gruden explained by a former quarterback that he's not logical. He's like me. Gruden is Mikey Raider. I'm not logical. I yell, I scream, I cry. Gruden is like me. So it's good when somebody gets in their face, especially Derek Carr. What'd you think of this interview? I just thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought that was a fair analysis of what was going on, and I think that it just confirms what a lot of us suspected, that it kind of brought some fire out of Carr. Instead of that, aw shucks, it's all my fault kind of mentality that he's displayed before. It's nice to see a little bit of fire and a little bit of passion, and like I've said last week, and as long as this doesn't devolve into your mama jokes, as long as it's about football and it's just they're just passionate about what it is they're doing, and it's based on strategy and whatever, then that's fine. It's healthy. I mean, debate is a wonderful education tool. There's nothing wrong with it. We're going to debate here from now until the next Mondays with Mikey and Murf about whether Tom Flores should be in the Hall of Fame, because I know I'm going to get a bunch of messages about it, and that's wonderful because then we're all going to learn from each other. So there's nothing wrong with Coach Gruden and Derek Carr having a healthy debate on the sideline, as long as, like Sims said there, as long as it's not something that's going on every single play and it's just like, it's a petty argument, but that's not what it is. So I think we're in good shape, man. I think it's good stuff.
I wish I could show film footage of, that disagreement or whatever it was again. And me and you, we could do voiceovers. We'd be like, I love you, Derek. And then you'll be like, I love you, John. Like, it would be hilarious. It'd be like, I messed up. So did I. We'll fix it.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, but I'm kind of, like I said, I'm trying to get past the Gruden hate and all that. Like, we've come to a stable point where hopefully I can move on. And I think it was good for Derek Carr and Gruden to get it out. And I've seen fire out of Gruden in the last couple press conferences. I mean, I didn't see it the first 6 or 7 games. Now he looks mad that he lost. And I'm proud of that. I'm like, good, be mad.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So I make vlogs. I try to make a video every day. And I asked a question. What is your personal Oakland Raiders biggest bust throughout history? It could be coaches, players, whatever you feel is the biggest buster. Some people said John Gruden, so what's yours? I wanted to know your take. What do you consider is your biggest Oakland Raiders history, biggest bust?
Anybody that said John Gruden doesn't understand the history of this man's, career with the organization, nor the history of the Raiders, frankly, because we're far from a bust status with him on this one. You want to look at
We're just salty. We're just mad right now.
Yeah, well, if you want to see what a bust and a coaching staff is, go look at Art Shell and Tom Walsh. That's what a bust looks like when it comes to coaches there. So, if you need a reference point, go check that one out, Raider Nation. Google it. But as far as players go, the obvious ones are Jamarcus, he's an easy one. He's an easy target and probably, frankly, is. But for the sake of conversation, you go a little deeper quarterback. You get to Todd Marinovich is there, and then you get to Mark Wilson. And those are the most obvious because franchise quarterback is the most important thing that you have to have in order to build a football team. But secondarily to that, I'm a firm believer that after you build through your franchise quarterback, you have to have somebody else to go get the other team's franchise quarterback. And so what I mean by that is you have to build a pass rush, whether that's an edge rusher or wherever, that somebody, you have to have a dominant player to go and get the other team's quarterback. To me, it's the second most important thing you can do. And the Raiders had one of the all-time greatest in Howie Long. And in 1986, they drafted Bob Bukowski. And Bob was the 24th overall pick in order to basically play the line with Howie and occupy some blocks to get Howie freed up a little bit. And I don't want to pile on Bob here because he just passed away this year, sadly. But he was terrible. I mean, they drafted the guy again, 24th overall, to go play the line, to go, bolster that line with Howie Long. And it didn't work out. And so I think that, aside from the quarterbacks, that's probably the most glaring draft bust in the Raiders history.
You consider Robert Gallery a bust? I don't even know why he was on that list, but
I don't think so. I think he was a bust for what they wanted him for, but he actually ended up being a pretty good guard. You know what I mean? And so because he was serviceable at another position, I don't think he's necessarily a bust. It would be kind of like if we would have kept, of course, Terrell Pryor was the third rounder, but say we kept Terrell Pryor and he ended up playing wide receiver for us. Well, he didn't work out at quarterback, but he's not a bust because he's in the league and he's playing wide receiver semi-effectively, right? And making a career out of it. So I don't put those guys in a bust category. So I wouldn't put Gallery there because he ended up being a pretty decent player.
I'm just going to end it with this, but you could possibly, depending on your take, you could put Reggie McKenzie on the list in the future in terms of biggest, not draft bust. We're talking like everything Raiders. Or you could put Mark Davis. I mean, there's some people that might do that. Or
Lane Kiffin. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And that's where I mean, anybody that said about Gruden, Google Lane Kiffin Raiders. You know what I mean? Shoot, Dennis Allen, man. That was a bust. You know what I mean? That was a far cry from what's going on with Gruden because there's extra dysfunction. It's one thing to not have success on the field, but when you have dysfunction to accompany it, that's a whole nother story. That's what a bust is all about. It's the dysfunction. Why was Jamarcus Russell the biggest bust in Raiders history? It had not as much to do with him on the field and everything to do with him off the field because he was dysfunctional as a person. That's why it was such a big dang bust. Why was Marinovich a bust? Because he was dysfunctional as a person. So it's like you get that dysfunction. That's to me what equates to whether something's a big giant bust. Gruden is not dysfunctional. We may not like what our record is, but he's not dysfunctional.
I beg to differ. I'm sorry.
Well
I think
played.
Gruden's a lot dysfunctional.
That's fair. That's fair.
But whatever. I'm going to be judging him for the next 9 to 10 years. So
yeah, you are.
I hope you guys enjoy this content. It'll be real fun moving forward.
You need to just have a show. You need to just do and just get it all out over a 60-minute period and just have the Murf, not Murf, have the Mikey on Gruden hour or something like that. And just get it all out, man. Just purge it all. Get it all out of your system in one fell swoop.
He keeps adding to the dang bowl, though. You get it? You say, get out the bowl. What's in the bowl? Get it out. Get it out. But he keeps adding every week. He says something. He does something. He keeps adding. All right. The day after a win, again, our stories are a little bit like a week late. But Derek Carr spoke, and we lost the first draft pick by getting a win. It made a lot of people mad that, we're possibly not going to have the first overall draft pick in the draft. But Derek Carr, and this is what freaks me out, he will sort of ask the question about the draft in the press conference, and this is what he said.
If the NFL season ended today, the Arizona Cardinals would have the #1 pick in the 2019 NFL Draft. They're 2-8 this season. Same record as the Oakland Raiders, who just beat them, and the San Francisco 49ers. The Raiders would have the 2nd pick. If the season ended today, the 49ers would pick 3rd. That doesn't sit well with Derek Carr. He knows the Raiders are rebuilding their roster. Gone are Khalil Mack, Amari Cooper, and others, but Carr wants to win. We know how competitive he is. We saw it at Fresno State. Today, he told reporters exactly what he's thinking.
I just want to win. I want to, mess up the draft. I don't want the first pick. I want to win all these games. So, I want everybody to be mad at me for that. That's what I want to accomplish.
I love it. I want my quarterback to talk like that. I'm not mad that apparently they messed up the draft, but my biggest concern is how the heck did the media even quote that to Derek Carr? Basically, it's like, are you guys tanking? Are you mad that you didn't lose to tank? Like, why are you tanking? That's basically it should have been the question. So your thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, I think it's a goofy sentiment. And, I swear, the more that I've gotten exposure by doing these shows and, gotten to know a lot of the media members, not personally, but gotten familiar with their work and their content, I'm not impressed, man. And there's a handful of guys out there. There's Jerry McDonald and Steve Corcoran, and I'll just stop there for now. But there's very limited. The rest of them, I mean, even guys in the past that I've had respect for, whatever, they just kind of go down this road with these questions and stuff, and it's just becoming this idea of the clickbait and the hot take and the answers and the controversial. It's out of control, man. It's just gotten to the point where I just want to distill the news myself and then output my own opinion and not trust what anybody else's questions and or positions are, because it's just, I don't know what their agendas are. So what's the point of asking Derek or even making a statement like that to him? Like, what do you think you're going to get out of that? I guess you're going to get a quote, and so you could put it in your paper or on your blog or on your whatever, your subscription service, and so you can get a fancy answer. But if that's the case, then I'm out. Like, I don't have any interest in that. And look, here's the bottom line with this too. So the actuality of it is this: that the draft position is going to get ranked on strength of schedule. So the Cardinals and the Niners are going to beat us out for that. We don't have any tiebreakers against them. So if Raider Nation, if you're kind of hoping for a number one pick, just go ahead and get it out of your head now, because it's likely not going to happen because we don't have any of the tiebreakers. So not only do we have to finish worse than, we have to have a clear-cut worse finish than either of those teams. And look, I know we're bad, but we're better than the Cardinals. You know what I mean? So we're probably going to be picking between 3 and 5, I would imagine, because I think the Raiders are, and we'll talk more about this later, but there's always a game they lose they shouldn't lose, and always a game they win they shouldn't win. So you watch us. We're going to knock off the friggin' Chiefs or something, and we'll end up with 4 or 5 wins on the season.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but like I said, we got to look forward to the draft in week 12. It's hilarious. So I was trying to get on, like I said, I'm trying to be the Gruden positive, look toward the future, and I try to make content. So I started to look, I was in bed one night, and then I started thinking, why did Gruden get rid of all these players beyond all the contracts and the money? What could be another reason Gruden got rid of Matt Cooper beyond, draft value or, draft picks or whatever? I was like, you know what? They all seemed a little selfish to me. In terms of, holding out hostage, not playing on the field, not communicating. So I posed the question, do you think Gruden purged some of these people because they were selfish? I mean, all of them. Marquette King is selfish, I believe. Who else? Bruce Irvin appeared to be selfish at the end completely. Khalil Mack, with him and his agent together, selfish for money. Amari Cooper, he didn't play that well for the Raiders. He didn't have no pride. Now, all of a sudden, with Dallas, he's really doing his best to win. It feels selfish. So would you think that Gruden is getting rid of these people like with 1% because they're selfish or something like that? I don't know how to pose the question.
Yeah, I think that you're dead on, Mikey. I agree with you 100%. I think that when you look at, Crabtree showed his rear end there at the end of the year last year on the sideline of that Chargers game, right? Like, we saw his character. Now, granted, he was pretty gracious when asked about the Raiders this week, and I was thankful to hear him and be gracious and to be kind and complimentary of the organization and whatnot. But when it looked at, and that might have been a rift just between him and Del Rio or something, you never know. But for whatever, he was pouty pants on the sideline in San Diego. And so, yeah, that's what selfish people do. And so Khalil Mack, I don't think Gruden set out to not bring Khalil Mack back, or I don't think he set out to trade him away. But I think that when it was evident that he wasn't going to show up and they were running risk of him not being there, that yes, and he showed that selfish nature, or the agent or whoever's responsible, then yes, he let him loose. The Coop, I don't think I would include there, because Coop, all accounts, is a good character guy. He's quiet, but he's not a selfish guy. I can't believe he came out of his shell finally now on Thanksgiving. Thanks for that, Amari Cooper. But is in consistent play. Like one week he's 3 catches for 36 yards. The next week he's the MVP, right? So that's why ultimately they let him go, is that he was looking for that number 1 money, but he wasn't always a number 1. Sometimes he was a number 4, just depending on what week it was. But yes, Marquette King, absolutely selfish player. Marquette King showing his rear end during the offseason when he was like, oh, who's that guy? That our new coach is the guy from Monday Night Football? Like, what a dumb thing.
I think I saw him on TV.
Yeah,
I think I see him. Yeah.
That was dumb. So anyway, but yeah, I think there's a lot to it. Well, what we do know is this for sure, is that if you're not as invested in the team as John Gruden is, if you're not dedicated to the sport and to football as much as John Gruden is, you won't be around for very long. And so it doesn't matter what your name is, what your contract is, how long you've been around, doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. And I'm including Derek Carr. Everybody is expendable if you're not as bought in as John Gruden is.
That's what Gruden is doing. To dig upon what you just said. That's why another reason why I truly believe Amari Cooper is selfish, because Gruden said he was going to make Amari Cooper the focal point of the offense. Maybe that was the plan. Maybe that's Gruden's dysfunctional way of hyping up players to play under him, to get him motivated. And then during the course of the season, he didn't see it. So then he started talking bad about the player. Then the player, Amari Cooper, went into a shell even more. And then he put him on the trade market. And then we got a first-round pick for him. So I don't think personally they're selfish in terms of their life or they're bad character people. I just meant for whatever reason in terms of the Raiders, Gruden, on the field, and whatever turmoil we're going through, they gave up, they quit, they were selfish, they wanted to move on, or they just didn't want to be around that culture. So yeah. I think clearly they're selfish.
That's very fair, Mikey. I think that's a great way to consider Coop in that group. Absolutely.
All right, so next subject. Somebody wrote a tweet, and I thought it was really interesting. I don't know if it's really true or not, so I don't want to present fake news. But Sam wrote to Victor Fur. He wrote, a lot of my Vegas friends are mad at the Raiders in general because we bought season ticket shells. They were marketed with Mac, Amari, Derek Carr, probably on the posters and everything to sell season tickets in Vegas. Now it's possible that all 3 might not even be there. And the team isn't giving refunds for Vegas season tickets. So there's some bad blood. Your thoughts on this? Should people that got season tickets for Vegas, if they feel duped, do they deserve a refund from the Vegas Raiders for season tickets?
No, and if your fandom is locked up into individual players, I would encourage you to divest your fandom, because if you're going to be are you a fan of the Raiders or are you a fan of players? Like, are you going to feel this way if Le'Veon Bell, Earl Thomas, and Jadeveon Clowney are on the team? Are you going to say, I want a refund because it wasn't those 3 guys, it's these 3 guys instead? Well, you're going to be just as much in love with those other 3 guys as you are with those 3 guys. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's all about putting W's up, man. So, no, I think these kinds of things, this is just another this is a microcosm of entitlement. Like, this is the team doesn't owe you anything. It doesn't, and if you don't like it, then don't buy tickets. Like there was no preconceived, established roster that like, this is it. Look, the team's going to market who they're going to market. They're going to market who their marquee players are. And at the time, before this year started, there's our marquee players, right? But they're not now. And so there's going to be somebody else next year. That's the way it is. It's freaking sports. Like, how long? This is the kind of stuff this drives me nuts. Like, not only how long have you been a Raider fan, but how long have you been a sports fan? Do you not pay attention? Do you not see the players switch teams all the time? That there is no such thing as loyalty. The only thing loyal in sports is you. That is me. And I'm not even talking about the proverbial you. I mean, you, Mikey Raider, are as loyal as they get. Me, Murf, I'm as loyal as they get. That's it. The players aren't freaking loyal. The teams are not loyal. The coaches are not loyal. It is all about W's and it's all about dollars. So get over yourself, buy your tickets, go enjoy the game, and don't have an expectation of who's going to show up.
Hey, Murf. Simmer down now. Simmer down now, Murf. Simmer down now. It's false advertising to a sense, whether you want to agree or not. But don't you hate it when you see a McDonald's commercial or something for a Big Mac and it looks big and juicy, and then you go in there, you're like, I'm going to get me a big and Mac juicy. It's going to be big and Macky. It's going to look good. And then you get some sort of crushed thing with a meat patty that's not even meat. And you're like, I want a refund. But you know what? I'm fat, so I still eat it.
Oh my gosh, you're out of control. You know who's got, I'll tell you that the only time that I understand this point or this argument a little bit is in the NBA. When the NBA rests players out of nowhere, like it's not because of injury, it's not for anything other than so you buy Lakers tickets, you live in Orlando and you buy Lakers tickets because you want to go see LeBron and he's resting that day. And there's nothing wrong with him. He's just sitting there in a suit on the bench. And you're like, what the crap? Like that I kind of get. Like, because they're not resting them for the playoffs. They're not they just happen to give them a day off. Like, I'm not down with that. I don't agree with that. I think
he deserves a refund. I think anybody that wants a refund, company based, if you're there for your fans, you know what? You open up that option. So that way maybe they feel like you care for them a little bit, when you're moving to Vegas. But I went to the preseason game versus the Rams, and, there was no thing that they were going to sit Derek Carr the first quarter or all the players, everybody was saying they were going to play the first quarter at least. I went to the game, sat in the sun. I got sunburned, cost me like $200 for that day for a preseason game, and none of them played. I felt hurt and injured. I just felt wrong. I felt bad. I had to go to the doctor after. Cost me more money. And I couldn't even see Derek Carr, knowing I'm not going to go to a game all year in Oakland. I couldn't even see him for half a quarter or one series. I think they deserve a refund. Let's move on. But we are officially the 30th ranked team, the 30th worst team in the league. So we moved up 2 spots after the win versus the Cardinals. We're probably still at 30 or 31 this week. I haven't looked at the rankings. But any thoughts on that? But hey, that's something to be proud of. So I had to show it. We moved up 2 spots.
Yay, we're not the worst.
All right, let's get into the game recap. Let's just keep this show rolling. Ravens run away with the win in the second half. Give me your first overall thoughts of this game. Did you think they'd win? Did you think they would hold their own? What happened that you liked, what you didn't like? What's going on?
I think ultimately, I've used the term a few times now this year about the team running out of talent, and here's a perfect example of what that looks like. You can only do so much for so long before your lack of talent at different positions, ultimately costs you. I think that Gruden has proven time and time again that he can still call an offense. He's still got it. When you look at that opening drive and the way that we marched down the field, there's still some magic in that play calling and in that playbook. And I think that the more talent that we continue to have, the better off that, the more of that we're going to see. We're going to see those themes continue throughout the course of a game and not just be on an opening drive or two and then go away. Because, when you look at some of the play calling, and it wasn't even, I don't even have an issue with some of the play calling, as it just was when you saw who was running the plays. When you watch Jordy Nelson on a freaking end around, the only time he gets the ball, the only time he touched the ball all game long was on that end around. And he's got his 33-year-old legs there that everybody in the offseason said, oh, he hasn't lost a step. BS. That dude's lost a freaking step. He's lost like 2 or 3 of them because he doesn't get open downfield. I just look at those things and I'm like, well, we just don't have it, and I like our young guys, on a positive note. The guys that are the younger guys, I think that they're not all the way to that point to where they're going to be effective starters, week in, week out, but the potential is there. When you look at Arden Key, man, have a game, dude. He's great. He's encouraging to watch play. Maurice Hurst is encouraging to watch play. Garyon Conley is encouraging to watch play. There's a lot of that kind of stuff going on with those young guys. And so I think ultimately the takeaway is that, they just don't have any kind of depth, and they just don't have the players to be effective down in and down out. And, gosh, if that Brandon Parker, man, I feel for that kid. I feel like the more we get the more that he struggles or the line struggles and the closer we get to the draft, Raider Nation, I'm telling you right now, get it out of your head that we're going to draft some glorious pass rusher who's going to come in there and change our lives. We're probably going to draft an offensive tackle. Because we freaking need it. Derek Carr has got to be protected, and when our offensive line is a sieve the way that it is, when Judon gets loose and 3 times in a row, golly. That's what I mean. They ran out of talent. There was no one there to block him.
Did you hear John Gruden in the press conference in the post game, speaking of John Judon, who had a good game against the Raiders? He was like, man, that John Judon or whatever his name is, Judon is great. But then he made the funniest joke. He goes, doggone it, Judon. Like, oh, man, Judon, how dare you beat us? I thoroughly agree. We have a lack of talent, but I also think that on the coaching side of the ball, I don't really know if they're putting in like really complicated schemes with these young players that are being forced to play. I think they're just implementing basic West Coast defense, offense, whatever it's kind of basic with a sprinkle of this here and there. I think they're just trying to learn how these players play, in big games. It's just basic to me, so unfortunately, I don't think we're going to win that way. But here's some news on the injury front. Raiders defensive end probably signed 2 weeks ago, Jackie Smith, to miss the rest of the season with an Achilles. Second time in as many games they've lost a player. We lost Brandon LaFell last week. And then, again, I don't know these decisions. I'm just stupid. But Raiders announced they waived Johnny Holton again. So, they brought him up this week, and then they waived him again, and hopefully he clears waiver and he gets put back on practice squad. I don't know what's going on. But it created a roster spot for tight end Darren Waller, who John Gruden said is being signed off of the Ravens practice squad. So we get rid of Johnny Holton, who's been with the Raiders, after being brought up this past week. Then we watch somebody play in practice on our enemy's team. Then we sign him. I'm confused. Any thoughts about these two situations?
Hey man, whatever you got to do, man. Wasn't it Johnny Holden that dropped that ball down deep in this game? Big players got to come. Or players, period, man. You got to come up with plays, man. When you get somebody like that who's been up and down and up and down, when you get the opportunity to make a play, you got to do it, man. All eyes are on you. And he didn't, Keon Hatcher was another one. He came up short, and Aitman, that was another guy, came up short, I thought wide receiver was going to be one of the strengths of our team coming into this season, obviously with Cooper and with Jordy and all the hype that was around Jordy and, bringing in Switzer. And I thought, man, we are in good shape when it comes to wide receiver. Ugh, well, it's terrible. We got no one to catch the ball, man, other than Jared Cook. And even he on times, man, how many times has he dropped a third down conversion? It's rough, man. Jalen Richard is our best receiver,
Seems like every week it's something. That's why it boggles my mind, all these roster decisions. Keon Hatcher, remember, he was mad at Gruden. He had the game of his life in the preseason, Keon Hatcher, and then Gruden said, they'll throw me off the plane if I don't sign him.
Yeah.
And then a week later, gets rid of him. Now he comes back to the team, and then he drops a pass. Well, maybe he did it as revenge against Gruden. I don't know.
Yeah, I doubt it. I doubt you're going to sacrifice your entire career just to get back at somebody.
It's true. Who knows nowadays? I don't know what's going on with this world. This is interesting. Marshawn Lynch might not be coming back for that final game at home in Pittsburgh. We don't know if he'll be signed next year either. I don't know what's going on, but Justin Ellis is expected to be activated off the injured reserve this week. Raiders coach John Gruden said Monday that offensive tackle Donald Penn, who's been on IR with a groin injury since October 3rd, was still rehabbing, and there was hope to have him on the field before the season is over. So if Penn and Ellis both return, that would mean you can only pull off 2 off of IR. That would mean Marshawn Lynch's season and perhaps his career with the Raiders is over because only 2 players can be brought back from IR. Lynch will be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. Fad, do you think he'll get signed? Any information on Lynch? This is sad to me, though.
Yeah, I heard a couple of opinions this week. People thought that Marshawn would be back for Vegas. I mean, I think if next year, depending on what happens, I think he's only gonna ever play for the Oakland Raiders. I think that everything he's done has been for Oakland, for the city of Oakland, and there's a lot of merit to that. And I think it's absolutely, I don't want to say tragic here, but in the scheme and the scope of sports, let's just keep the keep the perspective in play. It's kind of tragic that he's going to miss the last game would be against Denver, the last home game that he would be eligible for to bring back by the time he's healthy. And so, I was hoping that, that's okay. I was hoping that it's Christmas Eve. I was hoping he would come back, and that would be kind of like, if it is his final game, that would be his send-off, right? It would be pretty poetic to bring him back, have him play one last game, say goodbye to the Oakland fans, and then call it a career, or, at least a career with the Raiders. Because, I don't think he only comes back to play for the Raiders. He's not coming out of retirement.
If they play in San Diego, does he come back?
I don't think so, Mikey. I don't know. I just don't feel like he is. Now, again, some people have the opinion that he's gonna come back and he's gonna play no matter what, that he's still got a lot left in the tank. And I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see him playing for anybody other than the Oakland Raiders that play in Oakland. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of ifs there, but I think one way or the other, it's sad. It's sad that Marshawn has only been a Raider for a couple of years, and he's more of a Raider to me than a lot of guys that have been career Raiders. Like, he epitomizes a lot of what it is to be a Raider. And so I think it's pretty sad that he's not going to get that send-off, that proper, goodbye to the crowd, that one last game.
Do you think Gruden should have left Donald Penn or Ellis on IR in possibility of bringing back Lynch if he's not that injured?
He might. I don't know. We're pretty bad at right tackle, so, we really need we really need Penn, and we're not, defensive tackle. I think that you want to bring, he's Jelly is arguably one of the best players at his position on our team. So I don't know if you can fairly leave a guy like that off, but I'll say this: if either one of those guys shows that they're not quite ready, it would not surprise me one bit if they just make the call to leave those guys on IR and then bring Marshawn back for that one last.
Yeah, it depends on how injured Marshawn personally is. But I'm just saying, if Marshawn was good to go, me personally, for the fans, I don't know. I might leave Ellis or Penn.
Why not?
Just get it done.
You're 2-9, right? So it's not like you got anything major to play for at this point. So you might as well. I've always said, they don't ever do anything for us as fans, and I still firmly believe that. But if there were a case where ever even a little bit of thought would creep into that, I would say that this could be one of them, and not so much for us as fans, but for Marshawn and what. And we are kind of like the afterthought that him coming back and saying goodbye to Oakland. We are the benefactors of that because of him, but the team would be doing that as a thank you to Marshawn, if that makes sense.
I agree. And I kind of laughed when I saw this before I actually read the article, but it said Gruden's on the hot seat. But that's not what it said, but that's how I read it. I was like, he ain't on the hot seat for at least 5-6 years. But I delved into the article, and they just said basically if he wasn't a 10-year coach, he absolutely would deserve to be on the hot seat this season if he only had like a 2 or 3 year contract. So they said he absolutely deserves it. Would you agree if he only had a 3-year contract, would he be on the hot seat from your perspective?
I don't know. That's a tough one because he's on the hot seat because of the personnel changes, right? But if he was a 2-year kind of coach, he wouldn't have that capability. So it's a little bit of an oxymoron. I think that's a little bit, you know what I mean? That's really hard to, and I'm not trying to be difficult in giving an answer, but I think that, those things are not, necessarily exclusive of one another. So I don't know. Anytime you get an underachieving team, then your coach is going to be on the hot seat. But even, you're not going to, I don't know. I don't think so. Not necessarily. We'll see how next year looks. If we get to this point next year and it looks the same, then yes, absolutely. And he might be on the hot seat anyways, 10-year contract or not.
I think he's got 3 years into Vegas before any Mark Davis talk about possibly being on a hot seat would even, Mark Davis just came out last week and said, he's our coach. We love him. Everything's fine. So,
I totally agree, Mike. I think you're dead on. I think he's got 3 years in Vegas before it's ever even a conversation.
Yeah, he's on my hot seat, though. Dang right he is. my hot seat. My seat is hot, and he's on it. Raiders were victimized by a poor run defense again in a 34-17 loss to the Ravens. We were victimized for like 200 yards in the second half, up the middle and on the side on our young defensive line. They looked bad in terms of that. Any thoughts on that? What do you attribute it to? Coaching, players, giving up? I don't know. We got really for 200 yards in the second half.
This is I'm gonna stand up on my on Murf's soapbox here because I've been griping about this for numerous years and nothing has changed. So I'm gonna keep griping about it until maybe my griping can wish something into existence. Our linebacker play for the Raiders has been terrible for a long, long time, and subsequently our run defense has been terrible for a long, long time. Now, I'm not saying that just because we've had weak linebackers means that we've given up a lot of yards in the running game, but I do know this, with strength at that position, it becomes less and less frequent. And since Reggie McKenzie has taken over, he's drafted Markel Lee and signed Nicholas Morrow in 2017. He selected Miles Burris in the 4th round with his second ever draft pick in 2012. That guy's no longer in the NFL. Linebackers Nathan Stupar, C.O. Moore, Ben Heaney, Nerian Ball, Corey James, also selected by McKenzie, and none of those players are with the Raiders today, and only Stupar and Heaney are still on league rosters. McKenzie hasn't selected a linebacker in the 1st or 2nd round of the draft, only venturing into the 3rd round once when he took C.O. Moore. He stuck to this philosophy in 2018, and he picked Azeem Victor in the 6th round. I don't see Azeem Victor out there running around making plays. And the timing wasn't right to pick an elite linebacker in this last draft because Roquan Smith was selected by the Bears at 8 overall, and so therefore they went with Colton Miller. Now, look, I'm glad they didn't draft Reuben Foster. And that would have been one of those guys that I would have, as a fan, wanted the Raiders to draft. Clearly, somebody made the right decision to not draft him. But aside from that one case, when you look at all of the high-profile inside and even outside linebackers that have been drafted during Reggie McKenzie's tenure, the fact that we never even venture into a higher round to draft one, but yet we'll go grab a cornerback with some sort of question, whether it's, character or health or whatever. We'll go take a flyer on somebody like that, but we won't take a slam dunk on an inside linebacker. Drives me crazy. And until we do, one of these days, we're going to keep seeing this. Why do screens kill us? Because we don't have linebackers. Why does the running game kill us? Because we don't have linebackers. Why can't we generate enough of a pass rush? Because we don't have a linebacker. Like, I'm telling you, it's been the most neglected position for our team forever. I mean, since Kirk Morrison, Thomas Howard, and Robert Thomas. That was the last time we had 3 decent, serviceable linebackers. And Kirk was great. His career was short-lived, but you get what I'm saying, though, man. And Thomas Howard, God rest his soul, man. It's just, gosh, bless it, Mikey. Linebackers piss me off. I don't know why we can't address it. Why we got to address it with patchwork, man. Late rounds. And look, I like Tahir Whitehead. He's a nice player, but he's a complimentary guy. He can't be the focal point of our freaking linebacking core. Come on, man.
I wanted the guy, instead of Colton Miller, I wanted the guy the Cowboys drafted. Like, I have a video of me pick him up.
Yes.
Leighton Vander Esch. I wanted him. He looked like a pure linebacker to me, and I was like, that's more important to me, because I thought we had Gabe or Donald Penn at the left tackle possibly this season. So I wanted that one, but, it is what it is. It's a basic defense from my perspective, with these young players. Arden Key, I expect more from. I haven't seen a lot. I mean, I don't know. He's getting in there, but he ain't doing much anything else.
But that's what Mac was like. If you think back to what Mac was like early in his rookie year, it was a lot of almost theirs. It was a lot of just coming up just short. And I'm not, save your emails, I'm not comparing him to Khalil Mack. But what I am saying, though, is that game speed, that those almosts become plays getting made as you continue to learn and as you develop as a player. So I'm encouraged by Arden Key. I'm with you. He's not, the stat sheet is empty, right? He's not making, but he's in people's face a lot. He's really getting so close. And I got to imagine here over the next 2-3 years, he's going to become quite the stud. I hope so.
Well, in this game, they actually did a post-game interview with Arden Key, and he said we need to be more consistent. And he was actually told to contain the outside more in this game. and he didn't do a good job. I mean, yeah, he can rush and almost get there, but he was told to contain Lamar Jackson on the outside, and it didn't work.
And he's lightning quick when you could tell the difference when he knows there's a pass play and he doesn't have to worry about defending the run game. I mean, he's a lightning bolt to get back there. And so hopefully, maybe this, look, we drafted him late enough. Maybe he just develops into a third round guy. I mean, that's, maybe he's just a pass rusher, and that's fine.
Would you like him to be at defensive end / outside linebacker, a la the possible Bruce Irvin role, or other players had it? I think that'd be a better fit for him.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And I mean, and look, and that's kind of stuff. It takes time to figure that stuff out, right? I mean, a lot of times you get guys with skill sets that come in and you don't realize what they're. The other thing too is that he's kind of had, when he was at LSU, he kind of had one move. He kind of had that bull rush was that one thing. Well, he doesn't have a spin and a swim and like a lot of other things, but he'll develop that stuff. They'll coach that stuff up in him, and I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be just fine. I'm encouraged. I don't think even the Raiders know exactly what his role is going to be going forward or what his exact skill set is going to be. But once they get it figured out, man, he's got all the talent in the world, man. Right? Like that's the thing. He's a freaking athletic freak, man. So I think he's going to be awesome.
So the Raiders snap count, Jordy Nelson, it just boggles my mind. I don't know what's going on. He come off an injury. It's like Karate Kid. Daniel LaRusso is going to fight. Jordy Nelson is going to play. Jordy Nelson is going to play. And then he played 52 out of the 58 offensive snaps. He was targeted twice and had no receptions. What's going on? What's wrong? Does he deserve to be on the team? Should he retire now? Should the Raiders release him? Should they trade him? I mean, they can't trade him now. I guess the trade deadline passed. I don't know. Your thoughts, Murf, because this is not working.
Can you read that?
Cut the Nelsons. Is that a TV show we need to make?
Cut the Nelsons. That was a hashtag that came up in our chat room on Raiders Fan Radio this last week. That's what I think about this guy and his buddy Reggie Nelson. Cut the Nelsons.
That's hilarious. Oh, my God. I wish there was a scenario where somehow Green Bay lost last night as well, but I wish there was a scenario where Jordy Nelson could somehow just be released or traded back to Green Bay. Let him and Aaron Rodgers have the final 4 or 5 games, and hopefully make a playoff run, which I doubt they will. But
how do you do? What is he, like 80 some odd snaps or whatever, and he had 1 target? Like, come on, man.
58 offensive snaps. He played 52. I don't know. Do you think Gruden's cutting him out? I don't know. Was he the one that said, I need to get the F out of here? No. You think it was Jordy Nelson now that said that a couple of weeks ago?
I think that, look, I would encourage you when you watch this stuff and you process it, don't assume that anybody is telling somebody something because of a hidden or agenda or ulterior motive. There is an entirety of a case where these guys are getting put out there and they're not doing a good job. It has nothing to do with, let's keep the ball away from him, or let's try to keep this guy. Look, the coaches want the players to be successful. The players have to go out and play. They have to go out and run routes and get open, and the quarterback has to throw the ball. Like
that's what I meant. I was throwing a conspiracy. Remember, Derek Carr said he was mad at something that happened in the locker, and it was a player saying they don't want to be here. I'm just pretending. I'm saying it was Jordy Nelson who said it, and Derek Carr's mad at him.
No, Derek Carr. Come on now, think about this. So
you're telling me it's fun.
Okay, so here's the response. You brought it up, so I'm going to respond. You think the quarterback's going to drop back, like he's going to run a route, and look, Jordy's open, but I don't want to throw him the ball because I think he's a. So let me go over here and check down at Jalen Richard. Come on, man.
I never know anymore. This is a weird Raiders team, Murf. I'm freaking out. Everything's freaking me out, Murf. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but hashtag cut the Nelsons. Let's go. I don't know. It's just fun to talk about. It's what we have to do. It's what we have to do. PFF graded these are the highest graded Raider defensive players versus Baltimore. Again, I don't know the rating scales and everything, but I'm just giving some information. Tahir Whitehead, 82. Garyon Conley, 74.7. Joseph, 74. Nick Nelson, cornerbacks and the safeties played pretty decent against a bad quarterback, Lamar Jackson. What's your thoughts on that, on the PFF grades or how they played?
Yeah, I think Lamar Jackson. I think that's what I think. I think you got a young quarterback who's got like one read, maybe two, and that's it. He forces a lot of passes. Rookie quarterbacks have a tendency to make secondaries look good, and I think this was certainly the case, because as soon as they started focusing on running the football, then right? So but that's what they're going to do, right, with a rookie quarterback. Is that this was literally best case scenario for them. They had he's had plenty of learning opportunities. You know what I mean? He turned the ball over, but it didn't cost him the game. Like that, you could not ask for anything more as John Harbaugh or the Ravens for your young quarterback. So
it's funny. I like the way the defense played in general. I mean, maybe not the defensive line, but the backfield. I really enjoyed it against Lamar Jackson, who I thought was going to literally, even though they did run all over us, I thought he was going to have more explosive plays, even in the passing game against our secondary. I think the backfield played pretty well. What's your thoughts? Do you think they played pretty
what's
good?
encouraging is that they're coming up with plays. And I think that's where, in all this year so far in these losses, we've had, Eric Harris drops an interception, or, a ball gets batted up in the air and so-and-so doesn't come down with it or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like there was ball bouncing off Darryl Worley's hands when he breaks on a route. Like, there's so many almost kind of plays, but now they're making these. The batted ball gets picked off, right? The guys are coming up with and granted on that one, I forget who it was. I think it was Harris again. Had the ball go right through his hands, but thankfully Reggie was there to grab it, or Whitehead or whoever it was. But you guys get my point, is that now they're coming up with these plays. So that's encouraging. Yeah, and it doesn't matter if it's a young quarterback or if it's Tom Brady, right? As long as they're coming up with those plays when the opportunities are there, then that's a big deal, because that's what championship teams do. Because oftentimes, as we know, football games come down to one or two plays. The old adage is that, football never comes down to one play. Yeah, except sometimes it does. You know what I mean? Ask Adam Vinatieri. True. Yeah, sometimes it does come down to one play.
Yeah, one kicker play. But we finally had consistency. We've had the same defensive backfield and linebackers for 2 weeks in a row. So maybe they're learning how to communicate little by little, and it's getting a little bit better. So that's very nice to see, because the roster moves before that were just in and out every week. So I really, really enjoyed that. Jason OTC does a lot of information on the Raiders on Twitter, and he goes, in terms of draft position and value, there it is. We are third for the third draft pick, but he wrote down winnable games that he believes are winnable for the top drafting teams. So he's got San Francisco. He said can win it the Rams in week 17 if the Rams rest their starters. He believes San Francisco could win that game, maybe propel us to the first draft pick. Arizona at Atlanta, or home at Detroit. Then we got Oakland versus the Bengals with Jeff Driscoll. So do you think we're going to move up? You kind of spoke on it earlier. You think we'll move up or win another game or something like that?
I don't have the expectation that the Raiders are going to win any more football games. Is there a chance? Sure. And like I mentioned earlier, I think that there's a chance that they win a game that they shouldn't. Heck, watch us beat Kansas City this weekend. You never know, man. I mean, like, It literally is any given Sunday, so you never know what's going to happen. And something goofy like that might just go off and happen. And if it does, then, I don't think we're in a spot for the number one pick. I don't.
What about San Francisco? You think they'll win another game at Arizona? Or Arizona?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, they're bad. Those teams are bad, and I don't know who else they play each other, right? They have one more time against each other, or have they played each other twice?
I would hope he would have listed that if San Francisco played Arizona, but I don't think they play each other again.
Because Arizona I know they beat the Niners at least once. Did they beat them twice? Is that their 2 wins is against the Niners? See, that's a question. So other than that, I think they got to play each other. I'll look it up. Go ahead. You carry it.
Yeah, no worries. I was just wondering. I just like this post because he wrote possible winnable games for the Raiders, the Arizona Cardinals, the San Francisco. I don't think San Francisco will win another game unless they play Arizona. I don't think Arizona will win at Atlanta or at home versus Detroit. But I could see us winning at Cincy.
Okay, they don't. They don't play each other again. They played each other twice, and I'm pretty sure that's what Arizona's 2 wins have come against the Niners. So, so the Niners left. They got the Seahawks, the Bears, the Rams, Broncos, Seahawks twice, actually. So yeah, I don't see them winning another game. No, I think you're going to end up with the Niners.
Yeah, we'll probably have the third pick if we lose all our games. But I would want a victory at Cincinnati. Would you want one?
Heck yeah, man. I want to win all of them. I mean, I don't care about the draft, man. I'm like Derek Carr, man. I want to win all these games. I'm a Raider fan. You only get so many of these a year. You know what I mean? We're already what? We're at week 11 or 12 anyways, right? Like, I mean, we only get so many of these things, man. I want to see all of them win. I want to see positivity no matter what. You know what I mean?
We're basically 2 for 19 on our show. We've had 2 Victory Mondays out of 19 shows. So we're 2 for 19.
Oh, my gosh. It's terrible. See? I want us to win, man. Especially when, like, can you imagine if we knock off, Pittsburgh? Because right now, you look at the way that home field is working out. It's coming down to the Patriots and the Chiefs, right? And Pittsburgh's in the mix. And guess what? We get to play 2 of those 3 teams. So watch us go in there and be sneaky and knock someone off and cost them home field, like cost the Chiefs home field or the Steelers home field. Like, that'd be awesome, man. Like, yeah. So there's still some stuff to play for. There's still some things to get excited about.
I love it. I'm still in the mind frame of just win, baby. I'll worry about the draft position when it comes to the draft.
Exactly.
But we need to keep a record of our show like that. Like I said, how many Victory Mondays we had throughout our entire career, however long we're on. So we're 2 for 19. But I'm going to start keeping record. And you have said the proverbial you in every episode. So you were 19 for 19, Murf.
Right
with that
on.
statement.
Undefeated in proverbialism.
Michael Crabtree scored versus the Raider, but he declared he don't have any bad blood for his former team. Do you think he did and he really enjoyed doing that touchdown, or you think he really don't care?
No, I think he cares. I think he cares enough to say something. I mean, he was at least cognizant of it, and you're not going to, if you don't care a little bit, then you're just not going to say anything. So, that's the common athlete thing to do, right, is to deflect it and just come and give a vague answer. But he didn't. He was very specific and calling out Mark Davis and the organization in a positive way. And so, yeah, I thought that was nice. It was certainly, I didn't expect it. And Michael Crabtree was not my favorite Raider, not only with his demeanor on the sidelines, but his inconsistency with his hands. When he was good, he was great, but he was just, a little too inconsistent at times. And so, and the whole chain thing and all that stuff, like, it just, like, quit wearing the chain. Like, I mean, I get the first time, but don't wear it again. Like, I just, like, it becomes a little bit too, like, all right, like, what are we really focusing on here? So, but anyways, I wasn't the biggest fan of Michael Crabtree, but this was nice. This was nice to hear, and kudos to him. I mean, that's good to hear that there's not any bad blood there, I guess. Why not?
I look at everything from 20 different views every time. And just like the chain game versus Denver part 2, where he walked out and punched players and started a fight, this was planned. John Harbaugh, Michael Crabtree has not had a touchdown in 5 games. Lamar Jackson doesn't even throw the ball well, and he threw it to Michael Crabtree 2 times last week. He only had 1 catch. So that John Harbaugh wanted to hype up Crabtree with Lamar Jackson. So this was planned. They put in plays to target Michael Crabtree to get him a touchdown or a good reception against the Raiders. So yeah, he enjoyed it, and it was planned. He hasn't had no big catches in the previous games before, so he loved it. He loved every minute of it from my perspective. Now, this is a rumor. Again, we see this every week, but I'm going to ask you because it hit the mainstream media on Chat Sports. I don't even like Chat Sports, but whatever.
That's not mainstream media, but okay.
Well, the YouTube fake media like I am. I don't know. But some Raider fans are mumbling.
If you're a peer of us, you're not mainstream media.
That's true.
Sorry, Chat Sports, but you're no Fox Sports 1 or ESPN, buddy.
Chat Sports 4. Some Raider fans are mumbling to bench Derek Carr. Do you agree with that statement? Let's just talk about that scenario for what it's worth.
No, and I barely even want to dignify because this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. This is just somebody coming up with something, so they got something to talk about. This has absolutely nothing to do with the organization. That has absolutely nothing to do with the thinking of the coaching staff. This is clickbait. This is fan theory garbage. No, this is not going to happen.
Yeah, you don't even want to discuss why, if you would bench him for the future, for draft picks or to tank or whatever. I don't know.
I'd choose not to dignify these types of things. No,
I'll do it. I love it. I don't think they will bench Derek Carr in any scenario. I believe he is Gruden's guy moving forward, at least for the next year. I cannot say that in 2020 because, again, today's NFL, as Murf eloquently spoke about on many shows, is quarterbacks on an athletic scale that can do a lot of different things. You can get them on a cheaper contract, and you can build your team around a young quarterback. That could be John Gruden's thinking. I am not in John Gruden's brain. I do not know. Derek Carr is not playing the best. So there are the rumblings of benching Derek Carr are interesting. But would I bench him? No. Do I think he'll be benched? No. But if there's a scenario where John Gruden technically wants to move on from Derek Carr, would he do so this year? No. Maybe next year, if we're in the same predicament with Derek Carr playing and we're losing games, maybe Derek Carr is benched to look at A.J. McCarron or whoever's on the team, and then that'll spell the demise of Derek Carr with the Raiders. But that's next year's scenario. This year, it ain't going to happen. It would be the worst look for the team if Gruden did it. Then everybody would know officially Gruden is just lying out of his butt every week. Derek Carr's not his guy. They're tanking. He doesn't care. And it would spell even bigger disaster than the Khalil Mack trade if he were to bench Derek Carr when Derek Carr is healthy. That's my scenario.
Absolutely. Well, I think that there is something that you brought up that's very valid, and not in terms of what this suggestion is, but when you speculated the future, I think that what a point you brought up is very fair to debate, is that right now you can't gauge Carr entirely on his performance because he doesn't have a lot surrounding him weapons-wise. Jalen Richard and Jared Cook, and you know what I mean? And one of those guys is kind of even questionable. I think that if by next year or even the year after, if after you've had consistency in the offense, consistency in coordinator, developed weapons around him, is he still, 30 attempts, sub, 50% completion percentage, 200
Under
yards.
200 yards,
Is that the case? Well, then that's a whole nother conversation. You know what I mean? That's a whole nother conversation. If you're looking at I don't know, I'm just trying, since we're going to see the Titans here, if he has a Derrick Henry and a Corey Davis and Delaney Walker's hurt, but if you put Derek Carr on the Titans, does he still have that kind of offensive output? Or you put him on the Texans, if you give him a Will Fuller and a DeAndre Hopkins and guys like that, is it, you know what I'm saying? When the pieces are around him, what does he do? Because our offense is a far cry from just even those two that are going to be playing tonight. It's not even the same sport when you look at the amount of talent on those offenses versus the amount of talent on ours.
It's a very interesting topic that, a lot of people are clamoring on, with every bad performance, whether it be on the offensive line or with Derek Carr or the coaching. It's just a weekly topic, and that's the sad state because Derek Carr, I know, wants to be a Raider. So there's your game leaders. We'll just look. I'll give you guys the stats to look at. We don't have to go into them, but I wanted to at least present you guys with the stats before I get out of these videos. Thoughts on Jalen Richard? Gruden claimed he was the MVP of the team last week, and then he was only in on 8 plays the entire game until he got injured on that 8th play. But still, Gruden clamors him as the MVP. And in a week where I thought they would need Richard more, real quick passes, he was only in there for 8 plays until he got injured. That's kind of weird to me.
Yeah, but Dougie Fresh was getting loose, man. And that's, look, I wasn't very sure about the.
You call him Dougie Fresh? That was funny.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know how good of a signing that was, and I thought, well, okay, if he's just somebody to kind of back up Marshawn and play between the 20s and whatever, I'm like, okay, I could kind of see that. And then, we saw him get a handful of carries when Marshawn was resting, and it wasn't that impressive. But man, he's playing pretty friggin' well. So, I mean, I got to give him props, and he was having a great game. And so you go with the hot hand. If you guys playing well, averaging almost 5 yards a carry or at least over 4.5, let him keep on rolling, man, and no need for Jalen Richard at that point. So, yeah.
Well, they took out Doug Martin into the third quarter, and he was having a good game. I don't know why.
That's what I'm saying. And so then, yeah, and then we're probably to get him rest, saving him for the fourth quarter, I guess, because he is 28 or whatever. But I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the team we just run out of steam, man. Run out of talent, run out of whatever you want to call it, whatever cliche you want to put behind it. Just the momentum shifts dramatically after the second half, and especially as we get into the fourth quarter and the numbers reflect it.
Yeah, Marcel Aitman, to me, coming off the preseason he had with Derek Carr and the nice couple catches he had last week for big first downs, with another week of full practice, he didn't look that good. He looks like a seventh rounder still to this point. And that proves why he was on the practice squad this entire season. He didn't look that. He had 10 targets and only caught 3 for 16. So I wish it would look better, but.
Yeah, when you look at the ratios there, I mean, they're all pretty bad. They're all pretty bad. And we can pin a lot of it on CARR. You can pin a lot of it on, you can pin on play calling, you do whatever. But when you have that amount of targets going to that amount of guys, and you look at the amount of receptions that happen there, I mean, when you're talking, less than 50% reception percentage, that's not good. You know what I mean? I don't care who you are. That's not good. And I think that the sooner we can move on from, Seth Roberts, the better. I mean, I heard somebody refer to Lee Smith as Derek Carr's spirit animal. I thought that was pretty funny. And so, but I mean, if Lee Smith could outrun you and me, Mikey, he scores a touchdown on that play, right? I mean, but when that was our explosive play of the game was, that, of course, you set that a 44-yarder, but really Lee Smith's 30-yard play there, that was that was all that's what we got. That's the explosion of our offense is Lee friggin' Smith, Derek Carr's spirit animal.
With 10 targets, a seventh rounder with 10 targets. Jordy Nelson, $8 million man, 1 target.
1 target.
That just, I mean, I don't know whether that's Jordy Nelson to blame, Derek Carr not looking his way, or being told to go after Aitman. I don't know. It's just interesting.
I think, 33 years old and hurt doesn't equate a lot of open opportunities for Jordy Nelson.
Dwayne Harris, get off the team. What's going on? Who are you? You're a specialist. You ain't done nothing. Dwayne Harris, put Jordy Nelson back there at kick return and punt. Put Marcel Aitman. Put Keon Hatcher. Get somebody with some speed that can get open and do something. It ain't working. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, Harris had a couple nice plays this year, but and he plays hard. So I mean, you don't question the guy's heart and dedication to it. So I mean, I'm down with that. And I know you love you some punters there. Talk about underwhelming. How's that for a bust? That 5th rounder we spent on.
He's actually doing real good, Johnny Townsend. The last 3 weeks,
better.
He's brought his average up. He's had over 50-yard kicks in 3 straight games now. He brought his average up. I'm proud of him.
He is still uncorked some short ones, though, man. Drives me nuts.
Yeah, I don't think he has the angle ability where he knows how to pin him inside the 5, the 10. I don't think he's figured all that out yet. Now he's barely focusing on, I got to get it over 45 yards.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing.
45 yards.
Yeah. That's funny.
So that is our game recap, and now we are into the fun segment.
Woo!
You know what? Today was all fun. Everything. There was no big hatred from me on Gruden. Today was fun.
Oh, it's nice to hear a little the spirit of positivity from you, Mikey.
Well, I'm just thankful, coming off
there we go.
A thankful week. I've been living the positivity as much as I can.
There you go.
And hopefully it's bleeding over into my blister that I just came across earlier today.
There you go.
What did you say, Mikey? Ready? So I went to watch Creed Part 2.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. I went to go watch Creed Part 2. I'm a big fan of the Rocky Cheers. Me and my dad watched it. I took my dad's picture, so he was there with me. But that brought me into, you're Italian.
Yeah.
Rocky's Italian.
Yeah.
So I knew you've probably seen every Rocky movie.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you to tell me your best and worst Rocky movie from the franchise.
Well, the worst is the easiest one to pick on, right? And this is like picking Raider draft busts. It's it's, Jamarcus Russell is the easiest target, and Rocky V is the easiest movie to pick, right? It's terrible, right? And that whole, what was it, Tommy the Duke Morrison? Was that who that was? That was the bad guy? Tommy Gunn in the movie, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's a real boxer in real life.
Tommy Gunn Morrison, yeah. But that was not a good movie. That was a grip. But my favorite as a kid was 4 because of the guy you got on screen, because I loved the whole, being a kid of the really the 80s mostly, the whole thing with Russia and all that, and the Cold War and being a Cold War kid and all that. It really, that sentiment that storyline was very intriguing to me as a kid. And like watching the dichotomy between the way Drago would train versus Rocky being in the snow and lifting logs and like all that kind of stuff. But
the montage, the classic 80s montage.
Yeah, man.
With the music.
So good. So good, man. But I think that as much as I liked that, the grittiness and the rawness and not realism, it's a movie, but just the earnest of the first movie is so good, and there's nothing sensational about it. It just develops characters. It's kind of an awkward flick. He's kind of an awkward guy. Adrian's kind of an awkward girl. Her brother is like everybody's kind of awkward. Even Mickey is kind of awkward, and then he loses. Spoiler alert. He loses at the end of the movie. And so it doesn't end with this whole like, oh, look, kids, you just follow your dreams and you can achieve anything you want. No, you freaking lose. Sometimes you freaking lose. You can give it all you got. You can be the best you could possibly be. You can gut it out and do your absolute best. You got nothing left and you can still lose. And you got to learn to deal with that. And so I think that there's an amazing message in that movie that it goes well above and beyond just being entertained by a boxing flick. So I would definitely say that the first one, as much as I love all of these movies except for 5, the first one though, just the tone of it, I think just absolutely sets it apart, and it's a reason why it got all the accolades that it did when it came out.
I love it. You got to give me a Rocky impression from one of the movies somehow. Got to give me a Rocky impression from one of the movies.
Hey, yo, Mick. That's all I got. Hey, yo, Mick, I got to chase the chickens over here.
I love it. Hey, Rocky. That's a museum with pictures. I never knew they had so many. I never knew they had pictures in that museum. It's called the Picture Museum, Rocky. I never knew they had pictures in that museum. I don't know. That's hilarious.
I was thinking maybe you go out, you and I go get some food. If you like food.
Yo, Adrian, when we gonna have a sexual?
Hey.
When are we gonna have a sexual? A sexual what, Rocky?
In between raw eggs.
A little bit of Rocky history that not many people knew, and I didn't really know this till a couple of years ago. But Sylvester Stallone was a porn star in a couple of movies before he did Rocky. And that's the way he funded writing the script for Rocky, was through a couple of porn movies. And that was it's weird as how Rocky became from a porn movie. It's very interesting. And in Rocky V, that was his actual son, Sage Stallone, who played his son, who unfortunately passed away a few years back as well. So the real Rocky lost his son, not only in the movie, but he lost him in real life.
That's sad. And how about old Frank Stallone rocking the credits music there, man? Whenever you watch the credits, it's always some song by Frank Stallone, who was like the Roger Clinton of that duo. You know what I mean?
That's what I was going to say. Every famous actor's got like that one family member that hanged on them and gets a little bit of fame through the other family member.
There's like Dave Sandler. You know what I mean?
I don't know who Dave Sandler is.
I'm just making that up. But I mean, like, there's always some like other, because like Adam Sandler, like his whoever his brother is, right? Like there's
James
always some,
Franco, the other Franco.
Yeah.
My worst Rocky movie, it is the Tommy Gunn movie. It just went off the rails a little bit too much for me in terms of, it didn't feel like a formulaic Rocky movie. It didn't feel formulaic like a Rocky movie.
No, even the guy fighting the alleyway out at the end, like there's not even like a thing. That was dumb.
was interesting, but it's Rocky is so stupid through all the earlier movies, making all the wrong decisions. But then in the later movies, somehow after getting his brain beat out, he's smarter.
Yeah, now he's the sage, right? Now he's got all the wisdom. You know what? I got to tell you though, man. I'm don't tell me about them because seriously, no spoilers. I really enjoyed the first Creed movie. I really am looking forward to seeing the next one. I think Michael B. Jordan is fantastic. I love the whole idea and the whole concept of Rocky coming back and being that now Mickey figure to Adonis Creed. I think that's really, really cool. And, boxing, I used boxing when I was a kid, again, kind of a kid of the 80s. It was amazing. All the different, all the different stars and all the heavyweight division and all that these guys were like gods, man. And then especially when you got into the Tyson years and all that, it was like, and even to the, Holyfield and Michael Moore and all those guys, man. But now boxing is just awful. So the fact that there's
air's going to ever come back, I don't know.
I don't think so, man. So the fact that we have a good boxing movie, at least to get excited about, like I'm cool with, like I'm fired up for that, to go see Creed 2.
Yeah, they all got formulas. It's called the Rocky movie formula. Some stuff happens, emotional, fight. It's great. But my best Rocky movie is actually Rocky 2. I mean, I loved Rocky 1, don't get me wrong. But I just love seeing him and Apollo have a rematch, them becoming friends, and, the ending where they both punch each other with the painting.
That's great, man. Yeah.
The dynamic of them, spelled into the Creed movies. And so Rocky 2, for some darn reason, that's my favorite one. But I like 2, 3. I love, Mr. T. I love Ivan Drago. I love Rocky 1. It's very fun. I love almost all the Rocky movies.
How about this?
Even number 5. I'll leave number 5. I'll be all right with it.
How about this for Raider Nation? So we'll bring it full circle here just because I know someone's going, talk about the Raiders. Okay, so here you go. There is what famous actor, Mikey, in these series of movies played for the Oakland Raiders?
Oh, my God. I am so bad at this. Let me think. Was Matuzak in that movie? He was in the Goonies.
He was in the Goonies. No, and he was in North Dallas 40, of course. Carl Weathers, the guy that plays Apollo Creed, played for the Raiders. Carl Weathers was a Raider. So there you go. So we've gone full circle now. Back to the Raider talk.
There you go. So it's a Raider Rocky talk. All right. So I want to give a shout out. A couple people donated during the show and asked us a couple of questions. So I definitely want to get to it. First off,
great.
Thank you, Raider. Go on.
No, I was just saying, great. That's awesome, man. Thank you guys for the donation. And look forward to talk to the chat room here.
Yeah, hopefully we can reciprocate that and get that going as well on Murf's channel in the future. But that's a discussion for another day because he deserves support as well, just like all of us. Thank you very much. Raider Critique, thank you very much. You're always there. Moises Calderon, I hope I pronounced it right. Thank you so much. And Joshua Hughes, always representing. And Pirate 1975, thank you very much. Joshua asked the question, is Derek Carr on the hot seat, according to you or me, Murf?
Well, I certainly think that he's open to all the criticism that he's going to get, and I think that it's fair. I don't think he's on the hot seat in terms of he's the franchise quarterback, and even Gruden will refer to him as the franchise quarterback, and whether we like the success on the field and the record and all that stuff, he's still the guy, and he's shown us in the past that he's capable of it. So again, that's where I said that if surrounded with appropriate talent, what does his performance then look like? So I don't think he's necessarily on the hot seat. I think that if anything, he's gotten a little bit of a pass in this, in that, look, I'm all about holding him accountable, and I don't think we hold him accountable enough at times, but he gets a little bit of a pass considering all the things that have gone on around him, right?
Yeah, I would say Derek Carr is 100% on the hot seat. Why? Because it's a new regime. Gruden's coming in. He's learning the lay of the land. He says Derek Carr's his guy, but Gruden, just like me, can change his mind at any moment. Yeah. So I think Derek Carr every day is still proving himself. So he technically, from my perspective, is on the hot seat this year and next year at best, because 2020 might be a draft where there might be a few quarterbacks available and they can get rid of Derek Carr for $5 million loss, only a $5 million loss. So I would say, you know what? Derek Carr is on the hot seat in Gruden's regime right now. That'd be my perspective. And then quickly, Pirate, Raider Pirate 1975 asked, Murf, will you finally rap?
No.
It's a theme song. I think he wanted you to rap the theme song in the future.
I'll tell you what. How about this? I'll make you a deal, Pirate 1975. How about this? Because I'm not much of a rapper. I'm not a singer or anything musical. My kids are. My kids are budding rock stars, but I'm not. And my wife has all the musical talent in our family, and she's giving it to our kids. But anyways, so that said, I'm not a musical guy, but I'll make you a bet. If we beat the Chiefs at any point, either game this year, I will be glad to rap the theme song. How about that?
There you guys go. You hear it here first, and I'll let him do the audio so he can hear it. That's right. You heard it here first. If we beat the Chiefs at any point this season, Murf will rap. So that's a beautiful segue. Thank you very much. We play the Chiefs this upcoming week. Give me your expectations, your X factor, your predictions, or anything. I don't know. Let's just talk about it.
All right, so the line looks like this. The Raiders are 15-point home underdogs to the Chiefs, which is the biggest spread for them at home going back 20 years. The last time we were 14-point underdogs in 2009 against the Eagles, and the Raiders actually won that game 13-9. My dad, God rest his soul, used to always say, bet on home underdogs. Now, look, I don't think the Raiders are going to win this game, but I don't think it's going to be 52-0. I don't think we're going to see this massive blowout that everyone is expecting for a few reasons. Is that the Raiders-Chiefs always has extra mustard on it because it's a big rivalry game. And despite that I have red and yellow on my shirt here, I freaking hate the Chiefs. Everybody hates the Chiefs. Everybody in that Coliseum, the coaching staff, the front office, everybody hates the Chiefs. And guess what? They hate us just as much. So this game is going to be hard fought. It's going to be close. They have way more talent than we will ever know what to do with, okay? So we're not going to win this football game. But I don't think that they're going to beat us by more than 3 scores. So I'm going to say that this game ends up, I'm going to say 24-10, and I'm going to say that we cover the spread, even though I know they just scored 150 points on the Rams, but the Rams don't have that great of a defense because the Raiders, remember what we did against that Rams defense? Their defense isn't that great. Well, they're better than ours, but they're not that great. I just think it's going to be a closer game. We got them in the Coliseum. The crowd's going to be fired up. So 24-10, Chiefs over the Raiders, but the Raiders cover, and the home underdog is a favorite.
Who will be an MVP for the Raiders or an X factor if possible?
Oh gosh, I don't
Again,
know.
we have such a lack of talent. We can't even come up with somebody good every week on.
I mean, do we get a pass rush? Can we get to Patrick Mahomes? If we do, can Arden Key and Maurice Hurst be X factors? Can they get through the line enough to be able to wreak some havoc back there? I mean, we saw what Khalil Mack used to do to Eric Fisher, right? Remember that? There's that famous one of him picking him up and putting him on his back. I mean, it's beautiful, right? I mean, are we capable of anything like that? I would say that if we are, that could, because here's the thing is that we've got to stop them offensively. That's ultimately what this is going to come down to, because they're going to score. You know what I mean? They're going to score, right? So if we can keep them or at least slow them down enough and allow our offense to score, then I don't know. So if there's an X factor, I'll go with, give me a slash there. Give me Key/Hurst.
That's cool. I actually thought the Ravens game was going to be more of a blowout, and I was thoroughly and happily surprised that the Raiders stayed in it till the third quarter. This week's game, if I can just give you a little preview before I hopefully do a Mikey's pregame fix. This game scares me even worse than the Ravens game. And they won by what? 17 points, the Ravens. So I could definitely see the Chiefs winning by at least 3 touchdowns or 3 scores or more. So I don't know. I'll talk about it. But yeah, this game scares me. But I think the Chiefs, hopefully they play down to our level. They rest some players, or they don't throw the entire whatever the coach's name is, playbook at us, because they got some good stuff. And they got some good players that can really beat me. So I don't know. Hopefully they play down to our competition. And like you said, 24-10. I don't know. They might even not bench Mahomes, but they might see what they got at other positions against our team if they go ahead by 3 scores.
I was say, if it's 40-10 in the fourth quarter, we won't see Mahomes anymore.
Another scary week for Raider Nation. I don't know if we're going to win. If we're even going to compete. I don't know what's going to happen. But all I know is hopefully Gruden will be mad if we lose. because I've been liking to see that, but I don't know what's going to happen.
Just let me ask you this. Here, you like the hypothetical. Let me ask you a hypothetical. If we beat the Chiefs, big if, capital freaking 900 point font if, okay? If we beat the Chiefs at home, does the Gruden criticism chill out till the end of the year?
I just have to be honest. I mean, I like making popular videos and getting like $10, $15 a video if I can. But I think the Gruden criticism has already died down, if you really want to look at it from me. I kind of came to a subtle place.
Tell me then what the ramifications are long-term, and not as far as like who plays and all that, but I mean, from a fan perspective, we're fans as a fan show. From the fans, what happens if we beat the Chiefs at home? We beat arguably the best team in football, and we beat them. What does that mean for what is the mindset of Raider Nation look like on Monday?
You know what? If that happens, dude, Gruden will be God again. To a lot of the fans that have been criticizing him very, badly recently, he will be God again for at least the time being, because that's a huge victory with a really bad team. That would spell a lot in terms of the media and the fan base. And I think Gruden can do no wrong for at least 3 years if we get a victory versus the Chiefs. So, yeah, you know what? You're right. I'd probably 100% stop. Then I would jump on the Gruden bandwagon with a couple of hot dogs, a little bit of Slurpee, and I'd be like, I love Gruden. Let's go.
At least you're honest with your fluctuation, Mikey.
I'll be called a fake fan again. They'll be like, see, you're a liar. You were a hater at first, Mikey Raider. Look, I change every day. I'm like a butterfly. I go into a worm. I become a moth. Then I become a butterfly. I change every single day. I don't know what I'm thinking from 1 minute to the next. But what I am thinking right now is how grateful I am that you're still a part of this show, and we're building something special, Murf. So give some shout-outs. You got people that need a shout-out. Give some shout-outs before we get on out of here.
All right, here's my first one right here. So you see on my hat there, MT. That stands for Middle Tennessee. That is the Blue Raiders. All right, so for any Raiders fans, the Blue Raiders of Middle Tennessee have locked a spot in the Conference USA Championship game, which will be going on right down the road from my house. This is where I went to school, and so very proud of our football team. About I forget how many years ago we became Division 1A, but playing Conference USA, defeated last week the University of Alabama at Birmingham to set up a rematch of those two teams, and so for the conference championship. So I'm really proud of my school for doing that, and so go Raiders. And then outside of that, just please support the Murfs support. It sound like the Swedish chef. We're going
to make a Swedish meatball.
So yeah, please support the Murfs Fan Cave Network. Whether it's Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you could find your podcast, just search MURFS Fan Cave, and but most importantly, help us out on the YouTube by subscribing there. And thank you to Mikey as well for all the support that you've given our network at Murfs Fan Cave. And man, you thank me for being here, but I'm thankful for you for having me, man. I love this show.
Oh, thank you, brother. Like I said, the links for most of Murph's stuff will be down below, but you can find him. You can Google him. Hopefully you guys know how to do that nonsense. Real quickly, if the Raiders played Alabama, could we beat Alabama?
Oh, yeah. It's funny how this comes up every year. We'd be like, oh, can so-and-so beat so-and-so from college to pro? Yes. I mean, NFL, man, is the best of the best. Even the worst NFL teams would smoke any college football team. Not even close.
There we go. I would agree. I think that would be an awesome game to watch for Raider Nation this year. That'd be fun.
They used to do it back in the day. Like the Packers used to play UCLA. Like they would do that in exhibitions back in the day. In fact, the most famous of footage of Vince Lombardi on the sidelines is during a Packers UCLA exhibition game. Because there wasn't a lot of footage of him on this, like mic'd up and all that kind of stuff. But all that mic'd up stuff that you see of Lombardi, a lot of that is from that exhibition game.
Man, Murf dropping the knowledge, dropping the NFL knowledge. I love it, brother. I'm going to look that up when I get a chance. That's amazing.
Check it out.
Who's playing tonight? Tennessee.
Yeah, so speaking of Middle Tennessee, the Titans, who live in Nashville down the road from me, the Titans are taking on the Texans, and so there's no Raider rooting interest in there. So, so I'm hoping that the Titans beat the crap out of the Texans here.
All right, so there it is. Murf is a Titan Raider.
Nah, easy with that. I got enough crap as it is sometimes about that.
No, you're a Titan Raider. I mean, you're the biggest of the Raider fans.
Oh, thank you. There we go. Thank you. Nice save.
I turned it around on you. So you got the Titans. I think the Texans will win. I think DeAndre Hopkins might have a big game. I see the Texans winning. So there it is. That is this episode of Mondays with Mike and Murf. He is Murf. Check him out on the Raiders Fan Radio. All the links below. We will see you next Monday. Same bat time. Same bat channel. All right, let's sing the theme song and get out of here. Thank you guys for tuning in, being in the chat room. We love you all. Sing it with me, everybody that really likes us. If you don't like us, get on out of here. This has been Mondays with Mikey Heath Murf. Every Monday we talk Raiders and football dirt, because we are a new Raider type talk show. We having good times. Let's go. It's Mondays with Mikey and Murf. We'll see you next week, Raider.